everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the Return to Jesus podcast. I usually don't start off by speaking, but I just want to give a little information on this episode before we get started. One, I am so excited about this conversation. I am speaking with my husband, Patrick Thompson, and we're talking about all things grace and family and spiritual habits and rhythms. And I'll just tell you, lately we've had a season where it feels like things around us are just kind of breaking all the time, And so it's kind of no surprise when we set out to record this podcast. It just didn't quite go as planned. It feels a little bit par for the course, but it's a season on grace and returning to Jesus for grace. And we're talking about grace in our marriage and just grace with all the things. So I feel like what you're about to listen to is just real live grace being displayed real time in just real life circumstance. So we decided to go ahead and go with the plan B. I'm still publishing this week's podcast with Patrick and I because it was a really fun conversation, and there's a lot of great just nuggets of wisdom shared and us just talking to each other about life, and I'm excited to share that with you. But we are going to do this again next week. He and I are going to talk again next week. We're going to have a part 2 to this conversation. Hopefully next week won't be quite as choppy, but if it is, such is life. So thanks for being here, friends, and enjoy the conversation with me and my husband, Patrick. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Return to Jesus podcast. I am very, very excited for today's episode because I am sitting next to my husband. And I just know this is going to be so much fun because we've already laughed about the fact that I'm wearing headphones and he doesn't get any. He was like, "Where are my headphones?" I'm like, "No, this is my podcast. You don't get any headphones." So it's just going to be fun. I'm already having a blast, and we haven't even started. So yeah, this is my husband, Patrick, and usually I have my guest write out their bio, but I decided this time that I was going to write the bio because I have a lot of wonderful things to say about Patrick. And he is here for us to talk about marriage and grace. So I'm writing a bio not about his job and his many accolades there, but about who he is as my husband and a father. So Patrick Thompson is the love of my life. He is kind, hardworking, thoughtful, smart, funny, charming, and has one of the most contagious laughs I have ever heard. When he laughs, I can't help but to laugh with him. He is a very present, engaged, and intentional husband and father who serves, provides for, and loves his family well with both his words and his actions. He is incredibly humble and at times, I believe, truly doesn't understand the impact he makes in the spaces where he resides. He is an avid tennis player, and over the past year and a half, has it been a year and a half that you've been playing more? Yeah. Has made remarkable changes in health that have been inspiring to watch and a motivator for all of us who live under this roof with him. He is truly my best friend, and I thank God for the gift of this man in my life. It is an honor to have him here today and to get to share all of the awesome that is my husband, Patrick Thompson.
Thanks, Jen. Thank you. It's good to be here, everybody.
I am so excited that you agreed to do this because I know this is very much outside of your comfort zone.
Very much.
Yeah, I could tell. Like, even earlier today, you seemed like nervous. So I really appreciate that.
Even talking this close together is a little bit outside of my comfort zone. But I did brush my teeth, so hopefully this isn't.
We are so close right now. Yeah. Like, we never really talk this close.
But maybe we can start.
Would it be better if you were in the other room and I had you call in like a guest?
No, that'd be weird.
Okay,
we're good.
That would be really kind of weird, wouldn't it be?
Yes.
Yeah.
But we are, so maybe we should have done that, but the next one.
Yeah, that'll be the next one because you're already willing to do this again, aren't you?
We'll see.
I love it. Do you hear his enthusiasm? Like, we are just starting, and he's already talking about the next one. So I feel like, folks, this is going to be a regular occurrence. This is, I can tell. But
it's a lot of hype.
It is a lot of hype because I'm excited. I really am. So, for those of you who have not tuned into the podcast before, to give you a little background, the way that this podcast works, the first part of the podcast are faith-specific questions talking about rhythms and habits that you have incorporated into your day so that you can connect with the Lord. Just how do you return to Jesus? So Patrick and I are going to talk about his rhythms and habits, and then we're going to talk about all things family, marriage, and parenting, and grace, because this season is focused on grace, so all the things. So Pat, I'm going to ask you the questions that I ask everybody. And to start off with, when you hear the words, return to Jesus, what does that mean to you? And what does this return look like in your life?
When I think, and again, we've talked about the return to Jesus, for a long time. So like those words, when I think about them and what they mean and how I view them or the feeling that they give me is really, I think of it like, a family member or an old friend.
Yeah.
That you're familiar with, that they're familiar with you. And even if you don't talk every day, when you come back, he knows you, you know him. There's that easy communication, but what might be not there is necessarily an alignment around, the way kind of you're living or feeling. And so that's how I see it as, you can connect, you can conversate really easy, maybe how that person is built. And again, same with Jesus, the person of Jesus, and that does, but that, and you might be able to conversate and get along easily, but that doesn't mean that you're necessarily, when you return, that you're exactly aligned.
No.
Just like if you haven't talked to your parents, in months, or you haven't been close with them in years, maybe you're not exactly aligned with how they're living their life, but you get back into those regular rhythms, and then you find out, wait, okay, we can reconnect on these areas.
Okay, so are you saying so if you haven't returned in a while, like when you come back, you're finding that you have maybe missed that connection, and you have to kind of reestablish it? Yeah,
I'm talking about if there's been some kind of disconnect or a wandering, or you've just kind of strayed. That to me, that's when I think about returning to Jesus, that's the feeling it evokes.
Yeah, more of like a prodigal son, like you've come back kind of situation.
Maybe not that big. More of hey, we haven't talked in 6 months, and let's reconnect. Oh wait, this is a little different. This is a little different. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, I like how you said that there's that closeness, like how you make it akin to like a close family friend or a family. I guess somebody you're close to, family or friend. Because that no matter how long it's been, when you come back, that connection is still...
Well, there's a love, there's a comfort, there's a caring that, again, is there, but maybe you haven't sought that out or tried to connect with that.
Yeah.
Again, that's a little bit of the prodigal son, but not necessarily like that, like where it's been,
where you've gone and you've been
right. I'm not but
squandered everything, and
and you're coming back with nothing, and then but no, more so a sense of just we got to reconnect. It's really easy and it's comfortable. The connection part's easy, but the way and the things that maybe are prioritized are maybe different, and that's what I think about when I return to Jesus. It might be easy to be like, okay, I'm praying and I'm connecting, but then I start to see, oh, wait, these things aren't aligned, or I'm kind of off in this. And I feel
so
that.
So it's conviction.
Maybe,
almost,
maybe,
you're talking about, like a conviction. Like when
maybe.
you return, you're like, oh, wait, this has gotten a little out of whack.
Maybe.
And then you recognize those personal convictions inside of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah. And those are really good things to be aware of, too.
Yeah,
the convictions.
And so the second part of the question was...
what does that return look like?
So, and for me, and it kind of goes, into like what I'm doing on a daily basis, but, to me, the return is just, it's a conversation, and it's a intentional focus, and whether that focus is opening my Bible or opening a Bible app or... just generally getting into a more specific prayer time, but for me, kind of the regular return is, these little conversations I'll have as I'm going about my day, and maybe something frustrating happens or maybe something good happens, and that's when I'll kind of have a little quick conversation just in my head. And
Yeah.
that's how I find most of my prayer life being, also outside of like, evening prayer or, so a prayer before dinner. I find it to be something where I'm just reaching out and just having conversation.
I love that because I think so often, well, and especially for you and I, we both grew up Catholic. So, and I love the memorized prayers, and there's something so incredibly comforting about just the habits and the rhythms and that come with the Catholic Church. But I think to also expand out of those prayers that are from memory to this conversation, which is very different than how you and I grew up. We've talked about that before. So the fact that now where you are in your walk, it's moved from this like these times of very memorized specific prayers that you say in a certain way at a certain time to a conversation, like with almost like with a friend,
Right.
is a really beautiful transition.
Well, and to go off of, the Catholic experience a little bit more, again, when I was growing up, I thought of it more as what I would think now, like talking to my boss's boss. Like, that's how I thought about talking to God. Like, I had to talk to and kind of organize my thoughts and kind of get everything cleaned up just to talk to the priest, who then would do an intercession for me through God. And I never really knew like what that direct impact was or what God, I didn't feel like I knew what God felt about me. But now, again, it's a completely different dynamic in the relationship that I have now with Jesus, which is, again, very personal and more constant.
Yeah, that's so great. So what are some of the spiritual practices? I know you've talked about conversating with the Lord throughout the day of different times, but what are some practices and habits that you've incorporated into your life that work for you in your current season? Right. And I know one of the things you and I have, we've been together for almost 30 years. So we have experienced a lot of seasons and a lot of change. And some things have changed. So what habits work? And what have you had to get rid of? Is there anything that worked once that doesn't work anymore?
Well, again, I won't necessarily say that it worked once and it doesn't work anymore. It's a matter of prioritization and time management, I believe. But for me, the best habit that I've done that's outside of just kind of the regular conversational prayer, which I think is a really good habit, would be when I would wake up every morning and read the Jesus Calling book, which had a daily prayer, daily scripture. It took 5 minutes. And for me, that was something. So with any of my habits, good habits, they need to be really quite easy, to kind of fit in my day. They need to be, they can't be longer than a half an hour, 45 minutes. If they take up too much time or they're too hard to get into, they don't stick.
Yeah.
So for me, a habit needs to be, and again, for that was, I have the book right here. I can sit at the kitchen counter and it literally would take me 15 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, of my time. And that was easy. And it was, it wasn't easy to disrupt. But once I've gotten out of it, it's been hard to get back into that. And so I have not been doing that regularly, but for me, that's the one that is, it sets off my morning properly. And again, it doesn't take a ton of time and it provides that little focus. That is what I need first thing. So that is the biggest thing. I don't do it right now, but that's what I'm getting ready to incorporate into my daily habits.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think it's good that you talk about, too, understanding the parameters of what works for you, because that's one of the big reasons that I ask this question to everybody that comes on this podcast is I feel such a heart for people understanding that their relationship with the Lord it's a personal relationship, and everybody is different. Our families are different. We are created differently. We have unique backgrounds, unique stories. We have unique personalities, unique ways that we engage or don't engage. And so I think it's just really important that people just try to get to know what works for them in their relationship with the Lord. So I love how you said that, for you, it has to be like a shorter period of time or else it will fade. And I think that it probably really helps because, like if you try to say, I'm going to wake up at 5 and spend an hour at this kitchen island doing all of this. Well, yeah, sure. Like that might work for a couple weeks, but probably not much
Right,
longer.
down the long term. No. Well, and that's, and that's the thing is, same with any other good habits that I've formed, the ones that have lasted a long time, again, are short in duration, are easy. I don't have to go necessarily out of my way because, again, when things are longer or I have to go somewhere, something disrupts it, I get out of that rhythm. And for me personally, it's hard for me to get back into those rhythms. So again, kind of putting them in as part of my daily routine, having it be something quick. Again, not that I wouldn't like something longer, and I am attempting to get right back into reading more regularly too. And so on that front, for me, it's really, I've tried to read at night and I fall asleep like instantly.
Oh yeah.
So what I'm trying to do there is, and again, it's all about, at my age, like you learn like what doesn't work for you and what does. And so nighttime reading isn't necessarily the best. So lunchtime reading can work. Yeah. And so, fitting in maybe, it's 20, 30 minutes of regular reading during my lunch hour as opposed to maybe, surfing on the web or something like that is a perfect example of something that I can fit in. And it's hard to disrupt because I'm going to eat lunch every day.
Yeah, so. And that is much more life-giving to read versus the scrolling or seeing what's happening on the news or any of those things. Can be a lot more soul quenching.
Right. Well, and that's the other thing, I think similar to working out and, or having healthy eating habits, the more that you do it, the more it feeds on itself. And like we were talking about today was, discipline begets discipline. And so I kind of feel the same way that, once you start doing it, you start to get, the reinforcement, whatever that is, you just feel, better throughout the day. You're making clearer decisions. You're just, you're not as distracted. And so to me, as you start to feel those things, then you start to want to do it more and more, and then it takes more of a hold. Right. And really creates a long-term habit.
Yeah, and I think part of it too is understanding, like we were just talking about, your unique personality, the way that God has created you, and finding the things that bring you joy. Because our relationship with the Lord, He wants us to be joyful. Like when we meet with our kids and we're hanging out with our children, we don't want it to be a begrudging experience where we're like, hey, let's go have dinner together. And if they're like, oh, I have to go sit and talk to you for an hour, like that doesn't change God's opinion of us. It doesn't change His love for us. But it's so great when they have a heart of joy. And so I have to imagine that it brings our Father joy when we have a heart of joy to meet with Him. Right. And I think we'll be more open to the things He's trying to show us when we enter that space with a heart of like excitement to meet with Him versus a begrudging spirit. Although God will use the time we spend with Him always, like in ways to grow us, but to grow us closer to Him. But I was just thinking, our conversation reminded me, I talked this morning, as you know, with some of my author friends. We do this Zoom call once a month. And we were just encouraging each other to find ways to grow in our writing and things we can do. And one of the things that we said, we're setting an intention before we meet again next month, and everybody's supposed to share like 3 or 4 things they want to do. But we said things that bring you joy, things that you're excited about. And even just listing things with that frame of mind just kind of changes everything. Yeah. So I think finding those ways to meet with the Lord that bring us joy. Like, you love to play tennis. Like talking with Him while you're playing tennis. I love to run. Talking with Him while I'm running. There's just so many different ways that we can. So I love the things that you've said.
Well, on that point, though, I do think the more we incorporate it into something that is enjoyable, the more we associate, joy with the practice. And, it's not that everything's joyful or the discipline doesn't come in where there's sometimes like, oh, geez, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to, and I'm going to have some discipline. And maybe you start off with not the right attitude, but you usually end up with the right attitude. But I do think that. Right.
And I like that you said usually end up with the right attitude because, so I've been waking up earlier, as you know, which is not normal for me. Like I love my sleep. I love my sleep so much. And I don't go to bed early. I will lay on the couch and we'll watch a show. And I've been reading this book series that I love. So I've been staying up later than I usually do. by the time I'm finished reading, but I'm still committed to, in this season right now, waking up early, which usually doesn't last for very long, but I'm trying again. But what I realized this morning, like, I was so tired, but I was so excited to come and do my journaling, and I was so excited to do my prayer. And I realized, like, something in me realized I've had that shift inside of me from, like, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And then the habit has turned into, oh, wait, I really want to do this. Yep. So I do think that even if we start off kind of like, ugh, it can turn into something we really look forward to.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think if you start off by trying to schedule it in some way where it's like it fits into your rhythms and it's not disruptive, I think there's more chance that it's going to be that for you.
Yeah. So I agree. So we're talking about grace, all things grace. Okay, we're back. So this is kind of funny because Pat has been trying to encourage me forever and ever to get a new computer because I've had this for
8 years.
8 years. It's old and it's full. And my storage, it fails me all the time. But I haven't gotten anyone. And so the recording stopped and I have no idea where it left off. So we're just going to pop into a new question, and sorry if we left you hanging with a not complete thought, which there's a really solid chance that happened, but we're learning, right? It's this season's on grace.
Can we take that out in post-editing though?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I'm that talented yet,
okay.
But it's fine. This is a
It'll
season.
Be all right.
This is a season on grace.
It'll
so
be on
we're
a
just
bloopers
moving.
reel.
We're just moving forward. So grace, Pat. We've been together, like I said before, if it recorded or not, since I was 17, in a lot of seasons. So we have had a lot of seasons of grace. We've given each other a lot of grace. I would say that is one of the strengths of our marriage, wouldn't you?
For sure.
The grace that we give each other. What does grace mean to you? When you hear grace, what does that mean?
I mean, for me, I think it's kind of the textbook definition of, like, basically forgiveness that we don't deserve and we haven't earned. Basically just saying, okay, that's okay. I've not necessarily forgive you, but, basically saying that's all right. There's empathy involved. There's sympathy involved. There's, realizing that, we're all human involved. Yeah. And so to me, giving grace is just saying, all right, let's move past that, and let's maybe, there might be a discussion. Doesn't mean that there's no discussion or that, whatever issue maybe is not addressed. But to me, it's saying, all right, we can move on.
Yeah. And you're very good at that. I think that is one of your many gifts. Sincerely, he will deal with something and then it's done. Like, he is not one of those people that holds on to something and then brings it up again and again or uses it against me later. It is really and truly, we talk about something, we deal with it, and then we move forward. And it has been, for me in my life, one of the greatest examples of a Christ-like love. The love and the grace that you show me has modeled for me what that love and grace from the Father must be like, because you don't hold things over my head or keep record of wrongs, and just your willingness to forgive so quickly is really just a beautiful gift that you give to people in your life.
Well, it's funny you say that. When the other piece when I think about grace that I didn't mention would be that I think about you. And so to me, like, if I think about my life, when I was younger, pre-Jen, I don't think I was as graceful. I think I was, and I still have the ability to hold on to grudges. It doesn't necessarily have with us, because in our relationship, I think that you have helped by showing grace, by each of us kind of feeding off each other and having discussions and not holding grudges and not having conversations over and over again and kind of continually bringing up, past ills or faults. So I think that it's been a progression. I do feel, and I also feel like it's God-given, because there are things that I can do now, or I have for the last 15, 20 years as a younger kid or a young adult, I definitely would not have just gotten past or given grace to the people around me. And so I think that that's something that I've learned to employ in my life, again, through the Holy Spirit, through God, through Jesus, through you. I think all of those sources have helped to reshape me to be that person today.
Yeah. Well, and that's encouraging because, we're always growing, we're always changing. And just to hear how that has even grown in you over the years.
Yeah. And, because I can definitely look at, times earlier in my life where that was not the case and I was not as forgiving. But when you see that happen in your own life, again, in our relationship, you've done that for me, I've done that for you. And those are things, those you do hold on to, and you don't forget that. And you remember, oh, wow, I screwed up, and we don't talk about that anymore. And we haven't talked about it since we dealt with it. It's those kind of things. It doesn't get continually brought up unless it's an issue that I continually have. Yeah. And I do have some of those.
Same with me. Well, it makes me think of years and years and years ago when we were in premarital counseling, and our pastor at the time, Jeff Krajewski, had us, we had some stuff that we had to work out from our dating years, pre-engagement years. And one of the things that he said was, you have really forgiven somebody when you can revisit whatever happened and not have all of that surge of negative emotion attached to it. And he had us go through and do this exercise that I actually write about it in the book, in my book that's coming out. But that exercise, like, that he had us do, I feel like that really was a powerful moment for us, just to realize, like, wow, you can bring everything up, give it to the Lord, and then walk forward and not have the negative emotion attached, like that it is possible to walk in that forgiveness.
Yeah, even incredibly painful things in our lives where, we certainly have hurt each other where, to the degree that somebody from the outside would have said, wow, you shouldn't stay together. And, it really only through God's grace and, our kind of disciplined working through things have we been able to get to this point.
Yeah.
Or were we able to get to this point a long time ago? But yeah, that was such a great experience of, shutting everything out and then just burying all, because you bury secrets and you bury things and you live with them and then you can't take them out because it's buried and you feel like, okay, I'm just going to leave it there. And for us to be able to unearth that, prior to getting married was just so powerful.
Yeah, because secrets don't work, especially in marriage.
Right.
You need to know everything.
Yeah, and it's not to say that we've been perfect since, and that we haven't had.
Oh, goodness.
And we've had lots of things come up where we've had to, again, we haven't had to go back to that room
I mess up all the time.
Right, we don't have to lock the doors. Because I think we keep a better accounting of it, and things come up more quickly. But again, I still see you, giving grace, whether it's when I forget to take out the trash, or do lots of different things around here that, I delay or procrastinate. I see the grace that you give me, again, for real, because I know that there's some things that, you want to get done, and you're all right with it. So, again, I see it on a daily basis, and that makes it encourages me to just be wanting to give grace to you when, maybe something I asked for wasn't done, right? So,
wow, that's really sweet.
Yeah.
That's really sweet. Well, I'm glad. I keep looking over because I'm trying to make sure that this hasn't disappeared too. And it looks like so far, so good. So we're
still recording.
We're going to move on to the next set of questions, which I'm really excited about. I loved talking about our faith habits, and I'm very excited to dive into this too. We're going to talk about family, parenting, and grace. So, how do you think grace has played a role in our marriage? We've kind of just talked about that. But is there anything else you can think of? How has grace played a role, and what are some ways you see us give each other grace?
Well, we have talked about it. I just feel like it's a depth of relationship, that isn't there when you begin, and being together for so long. I feel like that grace, you think about your parents, you grow up with that, hopefully, or at least we did, where you mess up and you chastise, but then your parent doesn't continually bring that up.
Yeah.
And so I feel like in a relationship, it's tough to figure that out because, for whatever reason, you feel selfish, you feel like you want to get your way. So it's really hard to kind of start to build in that grace. But I feel like the habit that we've built in has really, again, given us this relationship that can withstand so much.
Yeah.
Because of that.
Well, and there's not a fear. Like when something happens, I'm not afraid, like, oh, is Pat gonna hold this over my head? Or is he gonna bring this up for there's not this fear that you're gonna somehow use. It happened again. We went away. But I feel like this is kind of par for the course with us lately. Like
Yes.
we've had so much of this, things breaking all the time.
Leaking toilets.
Yeah. Last night, when we went to bed, we laid down, we turned out the lights, and we could just hear water. And we're like, where is that coming from? And so Pat got up and did like a little search. And he's like, is Amelia taking a bath? And I was like, I hope not. Like, it's like a midnight on a school night. Or 11:30 or whatever time it was.
Yep.
So he goes upstairs and her toilet has completely flooded. Like he comes down and he's like, there's water everywhere. And then he goes back up to clean it. And within a matter of maybe a minute, just like all this water is pouring into our bedroom from the ceiling. And it kind of...
And it was toilet water.
It was toilet water.
So the worst kind of water.
So gross.
No.
So gross.
So yeah, we got some cleanup. We've got some car issues. We have all kinds of things.
Our dishwasher's broke. Like there's just a lot breaking. So it kind of feels perfect that this is the third time that we've. But you know what, Pat? We're not giving
We'll persevere.
up. We are not giving up, are we? This is like this is grace.
We're gonna give the computer grace.
In action.
Yes.
This is grace in action. This is happening right now. So what were we talking about before we...
I think we're going to start getting into the family.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. So I think we're done with that question then. We'll just say we give each other a lot of grace. And it's been a gift in our marriage.
Yeah.
And it's been a gift.
Absolutely.
So what has surprised you about the season that we are in now? So let me tell you a little bit about our season for those of you that have not listened before. We, like I said, have been together for almost 30 years. We have been married for, 22? It'll be 22 this year, right?
This year will be 22, yeah.
Yeah. And we have 4 kids, ages 19, 16, 15, and 12. Our oldest is in college. And we are just in a really busy time. We just have a lot going on.
Yeah.
We're in the squeeze. So now you know a little background about where we are. So what has surprised you about this season that we're in now? How is it different from other seasons? And is there anything you want to say to somebody who is in this season of life?
Yeah, so, I mean, the surprise, I don't know if it's a surprise, but definitely one of the things I love is, our relationship with our kids and the time we spend together, individually and collectively has just been...
I agree with that.
Has been really cool, getting to know them better, doing things, again, with them that they enjoy, that I also enjoy, whether it's, playing a board game, playing video games, going to the mall, all the things that we do with them that bring us joy. I love that, and I can't get enough of it. And even, now that our youngest, I take him to school, and I'm really enjoying that. So every day we ride to school, and we don't even talk. We listen to music and talk a little bit, but it's just been really sweet to get into that. And I don't know that I had those feelings when I was taking 2 or 3 kids to school, and it was a scramble, and it was always more stressful. So now that kind of the other ones are on their own and doing their own thing and driving themselves to school, that peaceful chance to take him to school has really been cool. So I love some of those aspects. Obviously, the more difficult ones are, that I wasn't really ready for was some of the financial stuff of, you think about kids when you have them, they're expensive. They're expensive as babies and kids, and they get into sports and blah. But then when they start going out there and having cars and spending your money without you being there, and so now there's lack of control and things are going this way and that way. So that's been one of the more difficult things, is just trying to rein it all in and realize that we're producing these people and creating, they're going out and living their lives and obviously spending our money at this point until, they're independent. And so that's been kind of an eye-opener of just how much they spread, and they go out in good ways too, and positively affect those around them. So that's been eye-opening.
Okay, it happened again. Like, it literally shut down again mid-conversation. So we have decided we're going with plan B. And this is life right now. And this is why I'm so glad that it's my honey that I'm talking to right here, because this could not be any more perfect. And so we decided, you know what? This is going to be a 2-part show. I'm going to be back next week with my amazing husband, and we're going to finish this conversation. I'm going to piece together everything we just said into this episode, and then we're going to start over again next week, and we're going to fill in the gaps, and we're going to continue this conversation. And I feel good about that choice.
I feel like this could be a whole new thing. We could leave this on a big cliffhanger.
Oh.
Yeah, you can ask me some really deep questions.
And then you don't answer. And then we're just like, ooh, what's he going to say?
Yeah. Tune in next week.
Cliffhanger with Patrick and
be
Jen.
continued.
I love it. All right, guys. Well, there you go. We're going to leave you on your cliffhanger. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thank you for...
Wait, what is the cliffhanger? You got to have...
Oh, wait. We don't have... What is the cliffhanger? I don't know. Do you want to ask?
What is the dumbest thing you've ever done in your life?
What? Do you want me to say that?
Okay.
Okay, guys, tune in next week and find out the dumbest things that both of us, because I have to answer that, you have to answer it too.
Okay.
The dumbest things that both of us have ever done together or on our own?
On our own.
On our own. Yeah, guys, you're gonna love it. It's a little off script, but it's really gonna be amazing. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you. I appreciate you listening. Until next week, friends. Bye.